wanted to select trees as a topic of investigation because the center had an interest in nature.
We had just finished our nature investigation over the summer, and I think the teachers were really knowledgeable on it and noticed that the children were so interested in nature.
We thought about the things that the children were showing interest in at the time and what would be most familiar for them.
We had just had a storm, so trees had come down in neighborhoods, and we wondered if they'd ever actually stop to really notice or look at a tree.
I think trees for preschool age children is a great topic for investigation because it's something that they're familiar with. So they have a little bit of knowledge about it, but not enough to make it boring for them.
Trees actually turned out to be great for toddlers because there were so many hands-on things that we could do. We could just walk outside. You know, it wasn't so abstract.
What's that big long part in the middle?
The trunk.
The trunk. So I might draw a big trunk. And then what's going to come on top of my trunk?
We started to talk about the different parts of this tree. That's where we started in our classroom. Each group chose a tree that they would kind of investigate and get to know. They had their science journals with them. We sat outside and examined the tree. We touched the tree and we sat and sketched them. The next day, children had the opportunity to re-sketch it and label all the different parts that they saw. Some children noticed that the leaves were either green or this was the time of the year where they were changing colors. So children had the opportunity to add color and paint.
We kind of started from the ground up, very basic, talking about the parts of the tree and what they were for. And once we got to the leaves, we realized all of the math that could be incorporated into that. So we did a lot of comparing sizes, comparing shapes, talking about the colors, sorting.
What shape is this leaf? You can tell me this leaf.
Oval.
Has a question. What is that?
Oval.
An oval. This comes from a goat willow tree.
And some of the children were able to identify the shapes. Some of them, you know, they don't have the language yet. They're not identifying the shapes yet, but they could visually see it and choose the shape and check to see if it matched. When we started looking at different leaves and talking about how they change color, we thought even the younger children will be able to choose which is their favorite color. They'll be able to put it on the graph. So even though they're not exactly getting the concept that, you know, this column, more children might like a red leaf as where the older children would, they were still getting something out of it.
The owl tried to sleep. I'm going to put my piece right in the, where's the owl sleeping? Not in the branches. Where's he
In the
sleeping?
middle.
In the trunk.
Literacy was everywhere. There was a lot of interesting stories that the children loved about trees.
The cuckoo called.
No,
An owl tried to sleep. Where will your cuckoo bird land?
An owl didn't sleep.
We had a pen pal. One of our children's fathers was our tree expert. So when we had questions about trees, we wrote him a letter and packed it full of all different questions that we had and sent it home with her, and he wrote back with all the answers to our questions.
In one of the classrooms, a family member contributed pieces of scrap wood. So the teacher tied it into a book they had read. So the children created their own three-dimensional leaf man structures.
At one point during the investigation, we were talking about deciduous and conifers, and we were talking about the different textures that the leaves have. And so we talked about the pine needles, as long as they're on the tree, will stay green. We compared pine boughs to paintbrushes, and so we just thought we'd take some different kinds of things from nature and do some painting within.
We got into habitats a little bit because they're big fans of animals, and we talked about beehives, and I was able to bring a beehive into the classroom. We took that idea and it was a 3-day project. We made paper mache beehives. Even the younger children, if they didn't completely understand exactly what the end product was, you know, it was that process. They were able to tear the newspaper, they were able to help mix the, you know, the glue, and they were sticking them on.
So with trees, one of the content standards that really fit in nicely was a science standard which addressed the need of living things.
There are mushrooms on the tree.
Oh, just like we talked about.
Mushrooms.
You think those are mushrooms on the tree?
We spent a lot of time examining the bark and finding these little things.
I wonder what that is and why they're on the bark of the tree.
So we did some research and figured out that it was lichen. And then we started to find lichen everywhere.
One of the things that we talked about in our tree investigation is creatures that live in trees. My co-teacher thought it would be a great idea to get a bird feeder and offer them some food. The children sit over in their chairs and they have their markers to tally marks to count the birds that are there, and they have the binoculars, and it really fosters a real connection with nature.
We did some bark rubbings, and again, they had a purpose behind it. We chose 2 different trees, and then we sat and we looked at our product that we had and talked about the differences.
This was the first tree. How are these ones? Are these the same or different?
Different.
Why are they different?
Because they have like thin and this has like bumpy.
This one was bumpy and this one was thin. I noticed that these lines are a lot skinnier than these lines.
Another science content standard that we decided to focus on was the life cycle of a tree.
The fall is a great time to do this because obviously the toddlers will notice that the colors of the leaves are changing and they're falling. But we started thinking they're so young they may not even remember the previous fall. So we selected a tree on the playground, and we'd go out and feel the tree and look at the tree and talk about it, and we'd take pictures, and they could write down their observations. And then the next time when we went out as a group, they could come in and visually see the difference between the 2 time periods, and we could talk about what had changed over the course of the month.
Where's that from? Tell me about the pipe cleaner you're putting inside your tube.
Because it's protecting it so the tree doesn't fall down.
It's protecting it so the tree doesn't fall down. Wow.
So it can fall down on this, and these pipe cleaners will help it stay.
We decided as our key experience for our investigation is to make a tree. We decided to break the children up into cooperative groups, and each group would take one part of the tree and construct it. We generated a list of materials of what we were going to use to make these parts.
If you notice, this tree has a lot of roots. See all the roots this tree has?
I need a lot of them.
That would be why you would need a lot of straws to make all those roots.
We got together as a whole group and put all the parts where they need to be, remembering that the roots need to be on the bottom, and then the trunk, and then the branches come on the top, and then the leaves are on top of the branches. And then we had to figure out how, as a group, we were going to get the tree out of our classroom to put on display.
Okay, here we go. We're putting our roots in the ground. And our tall tree.
And then we came up with a name, and they called it the Big Black Trunk Tree.
Towards the end of our investigation, after the children had all the knowledge they needed, we had 3 different groups who each sketched their own tree, again, including the realistic parts.
So I noticed that we have a trunk with some branches coming out, and I see roots. But we're missing something up here. The crown. So what do you think we should do?
So we figured out how we can make our sketch larger, and we added paper, and we had all of our sketches done. Then the next day, the children worked for a long time to create these trees, and they're all so different, but they all include those 3 main parts that we repeatedly talked about. So that was a great experience.
I just think that it was a great investigation because they're so familiar with trees. I mean, trees are all around them, but I guess when you take a step back, they really probably didn't know that much about them.
I think I learned from this investigation that even though trees seems like a simple topic, that you can go in depth and you can use science and math in different ways to really give children that content knowledge and get to know it in a more scientific way.
What I liked best about this investigation was that it raise children's awareness, things that they would take for granted. You walk by a tree every day. Do you ever stop and look at it?
I thought I knew a lot about trees just because I spent a lot of time in the woods as a child, like exploring things. Turns out I didn't know as much as I thought I did. You know, you're a teacher, you never stop learning.